So quick introduction of who I am. So I am the Chief Information Security Officer for UC Riverside. I've been with the UC about 18 years. The first 14 years or so was at UC Davis. I was a return student and then a student employee. And then when I graduated, I applied for a job and I kind of worked in the departments supporting faculty for um, roughly 8 years or so. And then I transitioned into central IT. And then I ended up getting a job down here and moved down here. So nice to see everyone. I know several of you, some of you, this is the first time I'm seeing you. So I look forward to, if you have questions, please ask. I try to be very open and engaging. Are there any questions before I get started with the presentation? No. Okay. Just quick confirmation, you all can see my presentation. Great, thank you. So today in particular, I wanted to talk about the cybersecurity requirements that has been put out by UCOP, and then tie that into kind of a higher level of what's going on at UCR as it relates to cybersecurity. Talk a little bit about the timeline and whatnot. So earlier this year, the president put forth a letter to all of the chancellors in a Dear Colleague letter with some cybersecurity requirements. I don't know if you've seen it. Here's the basic letter. And we're happy to share the presentation afterwards as well. So if people want to see it, you can also Google for the letter. It's out there. And this letter is actually in response to a series of criminal activities that have hit the campus and cyber attacks that we've had to deal with over the last several years. And as such, the regents have a high level of frustration as it relates to the cybersecurity controls that are being put forth and how criminal actors are still able to bring harm to the university. And so they've asked the president to enforce a certain subset of security controls. And along with that enforcement comes some consequences if you don't, and we'll touch on those. So the basic subset security controls is 100% compliance with the cybersecurity awareness training. We today currently sit at roughly 90%. There's 86% that have taken it, 4% that it's been assigned to, and 10% that are out of compliance. The regents are really looking for us to get much closer to 100%, and they're demanding 100, but are recently have said as long as we're close, that would be good, because there's going to be some churn and stuff, and so we're working on that. 100% compliance with using multi-factor authentication on all email systems. And I'll touch on this a little bit more. The requirement is to have MFA on our emails. We do essentially, there's a couple of groups on campus that run their own email that we're bringing into Central. That's going to take us some time. We're working with them and figuring things out. There's a couple that might not come into Central, one in particular, but they have MFA on it. And so we're about 90% compliance with that base requirement. UCOP then came out with guidance on a standard of how to implement the MFA. And there's a couple of things on that adds on top of this that we're going to be doing. An example of that is we're going to be retiring SMS authentication or authorization through MFA. So you'll have to use either that application or a token of some sort. We'll also need to change how we use our tokens, because the old tokens have a flaw in them. And so that's a requirement for us to look at, and we're exploring paths down that. We also need to change the verification piece. And so instead of just hitting a push, It would be a 4-digit number that you have to put into your phone that comes back to your phone to make sure it's really you. And part of the reason for this is there's been a spike in attacks to the UC in changing direct deposits, where people are just spamming individuals so that they just approve it on their phone or whatever it is, and then they go in and changing the direct deposit. And so UCOP has put forth some guidelines on how to strengthen those. We're going to be working on that between now and this upcoming summer. There's going to be more information to come out about that as well. 100% inventory and management of devices and vulnerabilities that are on our networks. And there's been conversations about what that really means on our networks. And so it's our trusted networks and our trusted data repositories. So some of our tools and applications are on the web. It's not actually not on our network. And so that's been kind of pulled into scope here. And so if you're connecting to a trusted resource of information, or you're on one of our trusted networks, that we are able to identify the device, know whose it is, and be able to understand what vulnerabilities are on that device. A data loss prevention tool for health email. We're in the process of doing that on our School of Medicine side. We're exploring on our student health side. We have nothing at the moment, so we're going from 0 to something. We do plan on having the School of Medicine side done by February, I believe it is. And then the student health, we're still exploring what that looks like as we're looking at email consolidations and things of that nature. Compliance with endpoint and detection and response software. The UCOP has provided a kind of a next generation antivirus. It's called EDR, endpoint detection and response. We have it. We've been deploying it for years. We're about 60% coverage on the campus, but they want us to be at 100%. A vast majority of what's left is actually inside the academic side of the house. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on this next several months. Timely escalation of incidents and documented program. We're 100% compliant with the documented program. Any questions before I move on? You can raise your hand. Let me change how I see people here so I can see everyone, not just a few. There we go. Okay. Actually, I'm going to skip one slide and come back to that one. So in general, our overall timeline to this is the letter came out in February. We were asked to have a plan for all of these things done by the end of April, and we're required to have it finished by May 2025. We put together a plan, engaged the campus leadership, and have been moving forward. There was a lot of pre-stuff we had to do within ITS, figuring out tools, technologies, paths forward, processes, figuring out how to engage different audiences. So that's what we've been working on since April. We're now at a place we've run a couple of pilots on things and are really pushing out our tools and technology. As of next week, we should be able to even reach those that independently manage their own machines, especially on the faculty side of the house. And so we put together a web application so people that manage their own machine could log in and get the tool set and put them on their computers. So that should be done by next week. We're doing some tests right now to finalize that. Between now and January, we're going to be in a mad dash push to get the tool set out to as much of the campus as we can that directly addresses the endpoints, which is going to be our hardest area to address. The others, we have a plan and we're moving forward, but the endpoints are our most challenging area. Starting in January, we'll start reporting on who has and doesn't have the tool set, and sharing those with campus leadership, with the deans and vice chancellors across the campus. And starting sometime Q1, around March period of time, we're going to look to actually enforce. So we'll identify a couple of networks, say like the VPN, or a couple of applications. We're still trying to understand what applications we would use that are heavily used by staff and faculty. And then we'll put security gateways on those to enforce the requirements before access to those. So I'm going to come back here real quick and look at the endpoint piece, which is our most challenging. We're looking to install 3 tool sets. An inventory and alerting tool. For those that are managed by ITS through our program, which I'll talk a little bit later, we'll end up, this will just be part of that program, the SDS program that we do. For those that don't, we're only going to be using this tool to inventory and alert. For those that are in the program, we're going to use this tool to actually help manage the device. A vulnerability management tool, which was really just scanning for vulnerabilities and reporting out on those vulnerabilities. And then the endpoint detection and response tool, which again is like a next generation antivirus. It looks for bad actions being taken and then alerts on those so that we can investigate it. Any questions so far? Okay. So deployment of these tools from a high level, there are 3 categories to kind of meet our deadline. The first one is the essentially managed devices. So our program that we manage, ITS. We not only manage all of ITS, we also manage many of the administrative units on the campus, and we even manage some of the academic side. So a good example of that would be College of Engineering, not College of Engineering, the School of Business. We work with them and manage their computers. This will just be part of that service. We will manage it and move forward with that. We're working with those that have strong IT support. So a good example of that would be College of Engineering, and they're deploying the tool set for us, and we're giving them access to some of the administrative consoles of those tool sets so that they can leverage our tools to help administrate their the population they're helping to support. And then individuals that self-manage. So this is really targeting those faculty that don't have any IT support and kind of self-manage their own systems. We're, like I said, next week should have a website up where they can log in and download the tools, and it will install the tools. We will use the inventory and management tool to manage our security tools, but we won't be managing anything else on their systems. It's really just collecting some information about what the system is and logging it in our inventory so that we can comply with the letter from the president. Any questions on the tool sets here or how we're looking to deploy it? Okay. I will say in conversations with campus leadership, the long-term assumption is that all administrative staff will be in the first bucket. The ITS will manage through our secure device service. We are growing that service and maturing it. It's come a long way this last year. There's still some maturing we have to do as we start to really expand it to all of campus. And so I'm not sure exactly what that timeline is going to be, but that's what the current expectation is from campus leadership. Okay. Speaking of the service for a moment, there's a website where you can learn more about what that service is and what we do and how we do it. We are looking to figure out what units want to be onboarded. We already do a fair amount of the administrative groups, but essentially, but there are others that are out there. Oh, I see there's some chat. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Oh, thank you, Alex. I'm glad to hear it wasn't successful. Okay. Um, there's a lot of benefits with this, being centrally managed, being updated, moving forward, and then some other aspects to it. It's a fairly good service, and we're trying to continuously improve it and make it more robust. So I encourage people to learn more about it. One of the things that have come out in some of the governance committees is the expectation is that if you're doing university work, it's on university devices. And this is especially true for the administrative side of the house. I've gone to a couple of these sessions because I've been going out to unit head and chair meetings to discuss with them. And I've found out that in some cases, units are allowing people to use their personal devices. The current expectation is that's going to stop, that for people to do university work, they need to be on university devices. If there are concerns or issues with that, please let me know so that we can have conversations and figure out what needs to be done, how to be done. It's not that we can't allow these tools to be on personal devices, the tool sets that we're deploying, but there are concerns about it being on personal devices. But moreover, from campus leadership, there's a lot of concerns when they heard that there are either temporary workers or workers that are doing a fair amount of university work on personal devices that have no controls or access governance on. So turning to the security enforcement piece, as I stated, there's some consequences in the president's letter. We'll pay for more for cyber insurance. If there is a breach, the cyber insurance won't actually cover it if we're not compliant. And another piece of it is up to the chancellor to leverage compliance as part of the merits and promotions of the vice chancellors and deans across the campus. Those are the primary ones. There's also some others in and around compliance as it relates to what we're trying to do with research and federal grants and things of that nature. This really helps us in those regards. And if we can make headway, it will help us there. The president's letter said that we need to ensure, which leads to enforcement. And so we're currently exploring what it means to try to enforce these things. I alluded to it earlier in that we're going to start reporting in January, and then later, maybe by March, we'll start doing some enforcements. We might actually start doing some manual enforcements late January, early February. For example, with if you haven't taken the training, you don't get access to EECS or something of that nature. We're exploring what that might look like right now. We're also exploring tool sets that would allow us to either block you from the physical network if you're plugged into it, or block you from the VPN, or possibly even the wireless network, depending on what wireless we're talking about. And we're also exploring tool sets that would target an application that says, before you can get into application X, we would do some sort of posture checking that you've taken your training and that your device that you're trying to log in has the tool sets. If you don't, you won't be allowed to log in. Again, that might be into EECS or some other applications on campus. We're still exploring what those might be. And to be clear, it wouldn't be everything at once. We would choose just a couple and then grow it from there. But those couple would have a very high impact. And the idea is that we would be in full enforcement by May of next year so that we could report that we're near or at 100% compliance with the region's requirements. I will say I went to the Regents meeting yesterday. The chancellor, the CIO, and myself had to explain to the Regents what we were doing to meet the requirements and what the security program was to keep the university safe. Because they hear of all the different attacks and are having all of the universities come and share with them what's going on. There was a lot of frustration expressed in the time and effort it seems to be taking to get people up to 100% compliance here. So there's a lot of pressure from them on the chancellors to reach compliance.
Dwight, there's a question in the chat. Someone is asking about using a personal device to remote into a university device. Could you speak to that? Is that within compliance?
Yeah, so that depends on how it's set up. So I know like some departments you use your home device and you can remote into your work computer and then you're doing some sort of RDP or some sort of VDI type of technology. Depending on how it's set up, yes, that could be compliant. But it really depends on how it's set up. The main issue is if your computer, I will share that actually recently, last month, there was a breach here at UCR, relatively minor incident that we don't have to worry too much about. But it was still something that could have been much worse. And it was because the home computer had been compromised, and the home computer then the bad actors pivoted it and got into the campus computer. The campus is regularly targeted for ransomware, and that is a perfect type of an attack. Phones are currently being exempt. So Sarah, I just glanced at it and talking about phones. Phones are currently being exempt from this, as are the student population at the moment. In large part because like phones logging on to email, for an example, the thought is those are commodity tools that are open to the web on purpose and allowing. What they want to make sure is if your phone is actually remoting into tools and services and getting access to I don't know, like databases and stuff, there is some concerns there, but currently they're being exempt. Nicole?
Oh yeah, I had added like an additional thing to my comment in the chat. And basically I just wanted to clarify that yeah, I am using the Global Protect Campus VPN in order to remote into my desktop. So from my understanding, by using the VPN to remote in and using my work desktop to actually do my work, that's why I just want to make sure that that's still considered compliant.
Yeah, so
and that Global Protect's not going away, that we're still going to have that VPN.
So the VPN is changing. When and where I don't have at the top of my head at the moment. It's on the network team, and we're looking at what that's going to be. I will say one of the large breaches from a prior institution I worked, they thought they were safe because they were VPNing in. They were not. They actually ended up encrypting their entire file storage, network file storage, because the person that was remoting in on an XP machine that was compromised, and they had full access to the file storage. And so the bad actor just pivoted from their system into the file storage that they had. So it's not the VPN itself that makes you safe. That stops bad actors from just attacking us directly. But if they already have access to your system and you're VPNing in, you're just giving them a doorway into our network. It's really how either the VDI or the RDP is set up on the other end, if it's safe or not. Sarah?
And to circle back on phones, what about logging in on other UC things? So if I'm like traveling for work, I might be sitting in the airport and go on HRMS to push forward a recruitment. Is that going to be a problem?
From your phone, you mean?
From my phone, yes.
So at the moment, it's not, because phones are being exempt, but this is actually being reviewed by the regents and others. In the future, it might be a requirement to have some sort of what's called a mobile device management, or it's a security software for phones. I will tell you, our School of Medicine already requires that. And so if you're on the School of Medicine and you're doing stuff on their network with your phone, it's required to have a tool set on that phone, personal or otherwise. But for the moment, for the campuses, that is not the case.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? There is a website to learn more. We're keeping it up to date. So you can go to this website as we update with information. What's going to come out here very shortly is some operational information for those faculty that self-manage, how to log in and download and get it. If you're unsure if you have it and you have IT support, please reach out to them. If Central IT is your support and you're running on an SDS, you have it. Like you're good. I will say a couple of times there's been questions, well, is this the right stuff that we're being asked to do to really help? And it aligns greatly with the security plans that we have. So we leveraged the federal security plan standard to kind of help build our security plan. This is what the foundation is and what we're doing to move forward with it. We're calling it the UCR Secure Trust Program. And as you can see, just to kind of run through it real quick, identity is a core piece of that. Well, we updated our identity and access management system so that it would help us move forward with having identity be a core feature for security. Devices, our secure device program that we have, and the tool sets to help secure devices that aren't part of our secure device program. Networks. We're in the process of revamping our network and adding security controls into our network with our network team, who's doing an amazing job there. And they're going to help us implement some security controls that we can do some like micro segmentation or some what's called software design networking, where we can put people on particular networks based off their risk profile or based off the department or whatever it is from there. Applications and workloads. So we're working with our central application developers to develop good security practices. Here in the future, we're going to tie that to our identity piece and to make sure that the applications have good security practices that touch to our identity so that the right person has access and people that aren't supposed to have access don't. We're revamping our enterprise access control system right now so that it can be more modernized and align with these things. Data. For those that might not know, we hired a chief data officer. She's just amazing. And we're trying to understand how to wrap our heads around protecting data for the campus, not just within these systems or networks or environments, but just in general. What does that mean and where we're going with that? And so these are things we had already talked about and started moving forward with. That's in part why we have such good percentage numbers compared to some of the other campuses in some of these areas. but we need to kind of close off the last little bit of gap of that to meet these president's mandates. And that's the general end of my presentation. I will have to say, I was expecting a lot more questions because when I've given this in the departments, I really get peppered with questions. Yeah, we'll make the slides available afterwards. I want to do a quick review of them. This is a living deck, so we're updating it constantly with some new information. I've probably changed this deck 4 or 5 times drastically, and then almost every time I give it, I do a quick update and look through. So we'll look through it, and then we'll get the information out to you.
Thank you. I mean, this might not be the first time people are seeing this information. I know I've seen it a couple times and it's still, there's always new stuff to learn from it.
Yeah.
So definitely appreciate the overview again.
And there will probably be continuing new. So an example of that is right now we have 3 core tools that we're deploying. But as we start to look at the security controls to enforce the tools, there might be another one that comes online that we have to deploy out there. Because it was a relatively short timeline. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you know doing any major change to the university within 9 months to a year is just a crazy time frame to try to do it in. And there were 6 major things that the university wanted, and one of them, or 2 of them, massive cultural changes for us. Putting agents on or tool sets on endpoints, that's a change in culture for the entire UC. But it is being required by the regents, and so we're moving forward with that. Any other questions? Well, if you have any, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have conversations. If you need and would like me to come talk to your department heads meeting, I've been trying to do that. I've seen about 6 or 7 department head meetings. So I'm happy to have those conversations and have more personal one-on-one conversations.
Thank you so much.